Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namashrestha Manamapi Sachiputra Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Graja Madhupurim Matrim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Giribaramaho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Jasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurun Tanmatosmi Nindantam Pulakot Karena Bikasam Nipa Prasunatschavim Prodrikritva Bujadvayam Hari Hari Ituchaiva Dantam Muhu Nrityantam Drutam Asru Nirjara Chaye Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadaya Parivratam Sri Gaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himabhadivyascha Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya-charitamrita Namo Namaste. Yes.
Today we have a question from Chinese section. It is said that when we are present in front of deity, it is for us to be seen by the deity. So if I join online ārati or other programs, does it give the same effect as attending in person?
That reminds me, in Russia, one devotee asked Gurudev, he said, if you take a manasa shnan, a mental bath, do you have to bathe later? With Krishna, all things are possible. So, in principle, it's not that that Krishna would be limited. And the Archamurti, the deity, takes different forms. Can be a painting, can be from earth, can be from marble, brass, etc., and also mental for advanced. So, still, when we have the opportunity to go before the deity, and there's so many extraordinary deities, those who've had the good fortune to go to Vrindavan or Navadvip, but particularly Vrindavan, so many different deities there. And the devotees are clamoring for the opportunity to present themselves before the deity and have the glance of the deity upon them. But in theory, Krishna, he's responding to the heart of the devotee. Because someone may go before the deity, and Guru Maharaj has said, like he said, when Mahaprabhu goes before Jagannath, Ganga-like streams of tears are pouring out of his eyes. And we're told, he sees Shyama Sundar Krishna, right? Because Radha Bhava Duti Subalita. So the heart of Radharani makes him Shyama Sundar, in a sense. He's reciprocating heart. This famous verse is there. Twang Bhakti Yoga Paribhavata Pavita Hrit Saroja Ase Shutekshita Pato Nanunata Pungsang. So, Bhakti Yoga Paribhavata Hrit Saroja. It's a very beautiful concept, saying the lotus of the heart. So you can say the lotus of the heart blossoms in the presence of Krishna. And there it's indicated, and elsewhere, that Krishna's reciprocating what's in the heart of that devotee. So whether it be a picture, or it could be even online or somewhere, if the heart of that devotee, they become excited in some devotional way, then Krishna will reciprocate that. And actually, I mean, if you could get excited like people do when they see some movie star or famous person, like they have an awards show, and then then comes some famous actor or lady, and then the people watching, they get a thrill by seeing them, and the person's interviewing or talking to them, and let's say it's live, so it's a real thrill. But it's unknown to that actor. They know, all right, ostensibly millions of people are watching, but just to make a point, they're not reciprocating. You know, I mean, I suppose you could try and make a case for that on some level, but not in a conscious way. But Krishna, as the absolute, right? The verse Guru Maharaj quotes, he attributes to Radharani herself, saying, Prati anga lage kande prati anga more. As every atom of our soul's existence is crying out for its correspondent, it's originally this verse from her. She's saying that every atom of my existence, what is hankering for, Krishna is fulfilling that. So if by seeing, in whatever the medium is, the heart of some devotee becomes excited, and by that I mean in a truly devotional sense, then Krishna can reciprocate that. So he's when Guru Maharaj was younger, and they noticed from an early age that he was very detached. And remember, even in normal families, but particularly in India and the Asian part of the world, they expect, and he's the eldest son, that he will go on, get married, have a family, and continue the family line. But seeing how detached he was, some of them were worried about him, like that he was too religious. You know, as in India, generally they like to say, when they know about dharma, artha, kama, moksha, so they say, dharma, you're religious up till like the age of 25, and you know, then you get married, artha, you know, and you earn money, and kama, and enjoy for another 25 years or so. Then in your 50s, then moksha. You know, they're saying this is the sequence. Or as we were mentioning the other day, Bhaktivinod Thakur in his confessional poetry, really articulating what our position is. He will say things like, you know, now that my senses are useless, like I've lost all sensual capability, now I'm shamelessly presenting myself to, you know, now I want to take shelter of you. But we could say, that's okay too, you know, whenever you come to that point. And I remember one of the teachers from the school used to come here and then brought another teacher, and they were like reading the Gita, and they read the Gita Mahatmyam part, where it has the glories of the Bhagavad-gita. It's maybe in the back or the front. And there was one verse that said, even if the most heinous type of person, the worst sinner, you know, if at the last moment of his death he hears this message, he can undergo this complete conversion and he's liberated, free, you know. And this person didn't like that. Whereas someone else might get inspired. That to him was a deal breaker. Because that means, well, what about all the people who did all the right things for so long, you know? And at first, I didn't know what to say to him. But as I thought about it more, I thought, no, it's telling you the glories. It's saying the Bhagavad-gita and its message is so wonderful and so powerful that even if there's this last minute conversion, it can happen. So it's not to say, then live your whole life sinfully and count on this last minute conversion kind of thing. But it's just showing you the power of Bhagavad-gita. Right? And the Garga Samhita says there's mention on the glories of tilak. Some devotee making tilak, and then some drops of tilak fall on the ground, and they go off. And then it said, again, the worst type of sinner, murderer, whatever he drops dead on that spot, but lands on the tilak, and then he gets, benefit from that. So it's not telling you to go out and be a murderer and live a whole, abusive life, and then dive on a clump of tilak right at the end, or It's just showing you the how holy and potent it is, that it can have those kind of effects. So anyway, the person detected this in Guru Maharaj, and this type of renunciation at an early age, and his preoccupation with Vedic literature, Sanskrit, Upanishads, Bhagavad. So much so that Guru Maharaj told me that on his father's deathbed, he called him to his side, and he knew it too, and he said, my last dying wish is that you shall get married. And in classic Guru Maharaj, it's just so classic Guru Maharaj, he said, I can't promise, but I'll try. On his deathbed, he wouldn't promise that. He said, I can't promise that, but I'll try. And he was briefly, in Grihastha ashram, and one by one, his wife left the world, other relatives and devotees and Gaudiya Math were saying, how many messages do you need? Prabhu, it's time. But anyway, this relative saw this at an early age, so he thought he would kind of blow his mind and give him something to think about and discourage this type of culture. So he said, did you know, according to science, that there's a trillion stars, and there are some universes that are so far away, their light may not have reached us yet. And, so if there is a God, he has any time for people like us. We're so insignificant. Right? And he's so far away. Right? So he's trying to create some space between Guru Maharaj and, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To use a phrase. But remember, Guru Maharaj, it's not that he's studying these things, it's some kind of hobby or fashion or preoccupation. He's mining spiritual substance, and he's already equipped. So he quotes the Ishopanishad to him. It says, Tad ejati, tad naijati, tad dure, tad antike, tadu sarvasya bhayataha. Some, maybe the sequence might be off. But it says, tad ejati, tad naijati, tad dure, he's very far, he's very far away. Tad antike, and he's very near as well. So he's very far away, but he's within everything. And so Guru Maharaj said to him, is there any place God is not? You understand, man? Prabhupada used to rail about that sometimes when in Bengal, particularly Mayavadi, would say, God is everywhere. There's no need to go to the temple. So Prabhupada would say, so God is everywhere except the temple. Right? If God is, then he's also in the temple. But they're saying, no, God is everywhere, no need to go to the temple. Then he's not in the temple, or he's everywhere. So how he's present in different places. Just like the Dham, Guru Maharaj said, it's like, like the capital of a country. It's, in one sense, more present there than in any other place. Therefore, it's the capital. So he's about the significance of the Dham. So, but what I mean by saying this, so in his default position as Paramatma, Brahma and Paramatma, he's everywhere and he's within everything. He's with Andantarastam Paramanu Chayantarastam. Ishwaram Sarvabhuteshu Hriddeshe Urjanatishtati. Said, I'm in the heart of every living being. So he's already there in his Paramatma expansion. But in the case of the deity, we're told, what does it say? Nesri Vijite Kvachit Deho Dehi Vibedayam Nesri Vijite Kvachit Sakshad Burjendana Nandana Hari. He's personally present there. But we know in the case of the Rasa Leela and the Brajagopis, or the cowherd boys on the banks of the Jamuna when they're eating lunch with Krishna, each one feels as though Krishna is personally eating lunch with them or dancing with them in the Rasa Leela. He has that capacity. So, main thing is he's reciprocating what's in the heart of the devotee. So, he can see. No limitation there. Still, we will want to, if we have the opportunity, to go for the darshan of any particular deity. We want to go there. But we know, Guru Maharaj told the story of Saraswati Thakur's disciples, whether it's Jagannath or Gorgadadhar, we say Gorgadadhar, they tell him they've seen, or Jagannath, we came from darshan of Jagannath. He said, you saw Jagannath? Yes, we saw Jagannath. Saraswati Thakur, you saw Jagannath? And they're going, no, Prabhu, we did not see Jagannath. He goes, yes, your eye exercise. And what he means, you'll see it in the Bhagavatam and elsewhere, how to view the deity. We're told, you begin at the lotus feet and then you gradually go up. And so if you notice, that means your eyeball's down here, then your eyeball goes up and your eyeball goes, so it shows Saraswati Thakur, in my opinion, had a great sense of humor. He said so many things that are just really, that are uniquely funny. Right? So he said, and when Guru Maharaj and Swami Maharaj are at that famous Mayapur meeting where Gurudev quotes the Kam Prati Katayitamise sloka and the inauguration of the ISKCON Chandrodaya Mandir in Mayapur, they recall how they met each other. And it was on the Brajamandal Parikrama. And they were told, Saraswati Thakur, they have an encampment. And so the pilgrims are told, a group of sannyasis are going to lead a parikrama party and go see the deity Sheshai, Vishnu, but has some connection with Gopi Leela. And otherwise, later, Prabhupada, Saraswati Thakur, he'll be in England taking the class, in America giving the class, right? So Prabhupada says to Guru Maharaj, the two of them decided to stay, to not go on that parikrama. And Prabhupada, he says, I thought, what will I see this Sheshai? And then Guru Maharaj laughs and says, I exercise. And they both start laughing. But, so Saraswati Thakur gives a lecture, And Prabhupada mentioned in another context, he said that Saraswati Thakur noted, like, oh, he doesn't go away, he's serious about hearing. Like to Prabhupada, our Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, that was a significant thing. That he's observing what the disciples are doing. So he said, oh, he's serious about hearing. And then it's hard to conceive sometimes what we're told. But when we have access to Saraswati Thakur, it reaffirms us that he was difficult to absorb. So at the end of his talks, Srila Guru Maharaj, Ananta Vasudeva Prabhu, and sometimes another, would explain, after Saraswati Thakur, they would explain to the devotees what they had just heard. And we should give, as Guru Maharaj gave compliment to Ananta Vasudeva Prabhu, he said, so just think, many, and Prabhupada himself included, said, some things Guru Maharaj was saying I could understand, some things he was saying I could not understand, but I would go on hearing. That's the point. Chaitanya-charitamrita, there are things, we should admit, why not? It's a fact. There are things in our books like that you can understand, and there are many things we cannot understand, but we go on faithfully hearing. And Kaviraj Goswami says, if you do that, that's like, what is it? Bhagavat Sevaya. That verse Prabhupada likes so much. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridyan Tasto Yavadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Nasta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. It's a type of service, this hearing. And gradually, through faithful hearing and the mood of that, we don't understand all this, but we're hearing it, we're purified by this divine vibration. Manasa Krishna Prabhu, remember then St. Petersburg, maybe you were there when Gurudev wanted to quote some of the Gita Govinda, and he said, good for hearing but not for telling, meaning like, and he realized because that's how he threaded that needle. He said, I'm going to sing these things but not explain them. So you can all happily hear this divine sound. Like I like to quote this one line that we're told, it would put Mahaprabhu in a trance. But it's also a beautiful example of the poetic skill of Jayadev Goswami. Lalita lavanga lata parishilana kamala malaya samire marukara bikara karambita kokila kujita kunja kutire. Right? But no explanation. I mean, I couldn't if I wanted to. I just know the sound of it. But you see, you can hear it saying, Lalita lavanga lata, la, la, la. Parishilana kamala. Marukara bikara, ka. Marukara bikara, karambita, kokya, ka. Ko-kila, kujita, kunjita, ko. So it's ka, ko, ku. It's divine. How beautiful, and what to speak of what is being expressed there. But in this, it gives you a hint of the beauty of that world. So there are things in Chaitanya-charitamrita that Saraswati Thakur said there's 3 sections that about to exercise caution. And Guru Maharaj said about it, we read them in Parayan, continuous reading, but we don't go into the details. Right? And sometimes when I see those things, I discussed it with Janardhan Maharaj. He asked me my opinion. I said, just read the Bengali, don't even translate it. Certain things. Because not that it's so beautiful, but it's so likely to be misunderstood, misinterpreted. In the James Joyce has this short story they call, I think, Portrait of an Artist, something like that. And these two college students are discussing aesthetics. Right? I mean, you know, the culture of beauty and poetic beauty and art, and one makes the case, he's saying, because they're talking about Eros as well, and he's saying, if something is truly aesthetic beauty, there should be no mundane reaction. Which is interesting that he pointed it out, because that's why certain parts, because of our non-liberated position, we're likely to have mundane reaction to hearing certain topics. But as Gurudev would say, still, they are there. It's not to be denied. This principle and the aspect of, which is the beauty and exclusiveness of Krishna conception. Because if we hear, sometimes we hear Rupa Goswami's analysis where he's saying 64 qualities and, Jiva's 50, executive class, Jiva's 55, Narayan 60, Balaram, Ramachandra 62, Krishna 64. So we think, well, Krishna just got 2 more? Then it's not that type of analysis, actually. But so it says, Sarvad Bhuta Chamatkara Lila Kalola Varadi Atulya Madhura Prema Murali Kalakujita, there's the word kujita, the sweet sound of the flute. But it also says, the Madhura. So this isn't just one more. It's saying Madhura-rasa pastimes are exclusive to Krishna. Right? Not Narayana Vaikuntha, right? Lakshmi and Narayan. They don't have erotic pastimes. Right? Ramachandra limited to conjugal, but the Paramor, Parakiya, rasa, it is exclusive to Krishna and Vrindavan. And we're told, whether by Freud or from the Bhagavatam, that Eros is the driving principle of material existence. And Madan Mohan announces this prospect, this possibility, with the supreme absolute personality of Godhead. So then they say, well, then let's tell everyone the good news. Right? Well, when Sukadev did that, the jaws dropped of the audience. And they're the greatest sages assembled for the universe. And as Guru Maharaj said, it was one thing for you to tell us that the supreme reality is a man. Really. And now you're telling us, what's more, he's an immoral man. That is too much. So then, how to grasp that from our present position? Bhaktivinod Thakur in Chaitanya-charitamrita says, actually, what is safe for our culture is the childhood pastimes of Krishna and the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not to try and enter into this plane, right, that is so confidential. But why did I say that? About hearing? Oh, Sir Bhagavat say, huh? I was talking about Bhagavat Seva, serving, hearing every day.
Swami Maharaj was.
And Guru Maharaj, I exercise seeing the deity. Yeah. All right, so the first part of the verse says, Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Hrit Saroja, appears on the lotus of the heart of the devotees. Narada says in that early part of the Bhagavatam also, when I chant his glories, he appears on the lotus of my heart as if called for. Of course, he's Narada. But the next line is very important. It says, Ase shutekshita pato nanunata pungsang. What is this path? It's so interesting and beautiful. It says, Shruta ikshita, shrutekshita. So it means Shruta ikshita pata. It's the path of seeing through hearing. That's what I wanted to say, I think. seeing through hearing. So the sequence is nama, rupa, guna, lila. We've heard from Guru Maharaj, Saraswati Thakur was against the idea of chanting japa in front of pictures, which we did for many years. Have a gentleman formerly from ISKCON here to verify. That was like part of our regimen, or in a temple, the chant in front of the deity. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but we would chant in front of, like have the picture like that. And there was one, and about hearing, because if you've ever been in a room of 100 people chanting japa at the same time, or 200, out loud, going around in circles and stuff like that. When my friend and I first went to the temple in Haight-Ashbury, after this Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati feast, which was 108 preparations, and whoever made the menu, I think, didn't plan it out properly. The last 8 were different types of bread. But anyway, so we're sort of like collapsed on the sidewalk and trying to hitchhike back to, we lived in a place called Japantown, and the devotees come by in their van. Right? This is 1969, 70, and they recognize us because we're going there every day. So they're going like, do you want to ride? Because they're going to go on Harinam in like Union Square. And we go, okay. And we get in the van. There's no seats. And there's like 25 devotees in the van. And they're all either falling asleep or chanting japa out loud. So it was like being in a beehive. And I remember when we got out of the van, we were like, that was incredible. But why did I say that? Oh, about the picture. So that was our custom. But then Guru Maharaj said, Saraswati Thakur said, if you do that, he said, the senses are so strong, they will convert that. And he said the senses are vulturous. They're like vultures, and they will convert what you see into vulture food. So the sequence, as given by Guru Maharaj, Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinod Thakur, is Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, and I like to add Rukmini from the Shrutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundar Srinvatamte sloka. And the ladies who sell fruits in Vrindavan, and many, as Gurudev is saying, many wear. That first there's hearing, right? And then, so that's nama. And Bhaktivinoda says this in Sharanagati in great detail, but just to understand the sequence, from the sound, the form appears. Not the form to your sound, it's backwards. From the sound. So he's saying, and I call, then he appears on the lotus of my heart. And we're not saying we're that, but we're just describing what is there. Right? So from the sound, nam, rup comes out. If it's pure, and then the rupa, the form, shows specific qualities and characteristics. Like we say in one, Madan Mohan, or Govinda, or Gopinath, or like that, right? So I mean, nama, rupa, guna, qualities. And then Bhaktivinod Thakur goes so far to say in his song, he said, and then he forcibly takes me into his lila. Right? That's Bhaktivinod Thakur's Krishna Nam. So we may see externally, we think someone is sitting there like this, taking Krishna Nam, and we will think like, oh, they must be meditating on Krishna. It's not to say that they're not, but what if we said, while you see them doing that, they were in the upper world participating in Leela, right? Not listening to a monotonous sound. the repetition of a monotonous sound, but we're directly participating in Leela. That's the higher devotees. Otherwise, we'll think they're not doing anything. Like when Muraleshwar Prabhu and I were in that Petrozavodsk, right? And so we're in this apartment, and it's like, and the person's sister comes in, and she says, every night you're just sitting here like talking about Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And she said, if you want to help people, why don't you go out and do something? Like distribute grichka. Help the people. Give them something substantial. Because she didn't think that this was substantial. And what to speak of that, we hear in Bhagavad-gita, Majchita Madgata Prana Bodhayantas Parasparam. It's one of the nutshell slokas. Katayan Chaschamam Nityam. And here it is. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So it's saying, when the devotees are doing this, again, it's not rote recitation, monotony. I mean, it may appear to be contradicting what I said before. No, we're faithfully hearing. There's a stage where you're just continuing to hear, right? And there may not be so much, Guru Maharaj compares it to like melting ice. It takes some time to get to the melted position. But it's saying, don't think that of the higher devotees, that what we're doing, that's what they're doing, just a little better, or with more concentration. Right? It says here, tushyanti cha, they're feasting. They're like drowning and eating nectarine substances of varieties of tastes. And just to put it out there, because Guru Maharaj said, that's tushyanti. And then it says, ramanti cha, and I'm not going to talk about this, but just tell you what he said. Including erotic pleasure. Right? All right, let's just move on. And there. That's what it says, tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So this idea that the ascetics, not aesthetics, now we're saying ascetic, generally meaning like saints, that the Krishna consciousness is not about sensory deprivation, right? The monks and what do they call it? Cells, right? They call it a cell, the room for the monks, cell. And then the gruel, gruel means like the worst kind of imaginable food. Pushed under the, the little slot in the door, and he's in there, flagellant, because I'm so sinful. So, in other words, so that this type of austerity in the mode of ignorance or passion is going to elevate you to some higher position. Now, the reason the great devotees, like Das Goswami and others, are taking so little of this world is because they're full on nectarine substance. They're only taking enough to keep their body going. So he's drinking the buttermilk, right? But they're feasting. When it says that, the form of Krishna, anangotsavam, that's in Gita Govinda. Vishvesham manoranjanena janayan anandam indivara shreni shamala kamala, something, anangotsavam. Ananga Utsav is a festival of every aspect of Krishna's divine form is like a festival of Cupid. So we can't think that whatever we have, or we should avoid, thinking that as far as we've conceived Krishna consciousness, we are trying to convince others to consider that, you could say. But we shouldn't deceive ourselves into thinking, again, that we've fully conceived Krishna, or that the higher devotees, what they conceive or perceive is marginally better than where we are at present. It's actually offensive to think like that. It's not hyperbole when they talk about, the Bhakti-rasamrita-sindhu, an ocean of nectarine rasa. And what does Rupa Goswami say what the devotees are like? Not just like pearl divers. We saw that in Hawaii, and they have those volcanic craters you can swim in. And some people, snorkeling, you put on a mask, and then according to the capacity of the diver, somebody can go down, and then they come back up. He doesn't say compare them to that. He said they're like aquatic animals that live like in the bottom of the ocean, that deep, right? And so if the surface, or you could say we've maybe touched the surface, if you want to be generous, and that has astonished us, then what to speak of those, he said, they're diving deep into this ocean of bhakti rasa. So Guru Maharaj is always cautioning us against more or less and now these are my words but mixed with his, having a finite conception of the infinite. Right? Because we'll think, that we've appreciated it to some level. But he's saying, remember, that infinite sleeps on a bed of infinite. So when we talk about the, young Shyama Sundaram, Achintya Guna Swarup. So saying the Shyama Sundar form of Krishna. What is it? An Achintya Guna Swarup. The qualities of that form are inconceivable. Means he's inconceivably beautiful. Not just think of the most beautiful person we've seen here and multiply that 100 times, 1,000 times. Not even close. That verse is also mentioned in Gopis, saying the women of the heavenly planets who smell like lotus flowers and they're inconceivably beautiful, how they're charmed by the pastimes of Krishna. But so by hearing Uttama Shloka Leelaya, right? Sukadev himself, giving himself as an example, Parinirstitopi Nayargunya Uttama Shloka Leelaya Grihita Cheta Rajarse Akyanam Yadaditavan. So out of necessity for broadcasting the Bhagavatam, he's in the position of what we would say like a brahmavadi. Right? And that's necessary because they're holding the respect of people in society, and it's going to be very critical that because they say, no, but no, Sukadev's a devotee. Why? At this point, this is the position he occupies, and it's very important because, that sort of person, right? Rupa Goswami says, Brahmanando bhavedesha chet parada guni krita naiti bhakti sukham bodhe paramano tilamame. The Brahmanandis, they're experiencing, this is just by Brahman realization, experiencing happiness that makes erotic pleasure appalling to them. Right? So they're certified as having no mundane sexual interest. That's why Sukadev's the loudspeaker for that. And he's saying, what? By hearing, I came to see. By hearing, I came to conceive properly. And what is that? Uttama Sloka Leelaya. When I heard from my father, Veda Vyas, these pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the Braja Gopis. He's saying, I didn't know this was a possibility previously. Right? And the reason he's the man who can certify that the pastimes are not mundane, because he's not only did he cross over that sort of mundane interest, he was never interested in it from birth, inside the womb of his mother. So that person, why is he so interested in this? Why did this capture him if it doesn't have a spiritual quality? Guru Maharaj would say, why is Mahaprabhu, who's an impeccable, from an external point of view, an impeccable sannyasi, why is he so obsessed with the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the Braja Gopis, unless they're not mundane? If they were mundane, he would have no interest in that. Yet he's utterly, totally obsessed with these pastimes. So it implies that they're of a different quality. Any other question?
Only a brief one. Let's ask this question, maybe. Question from Vasudev Prabhu, Gupta Govardhan. There is one popular proverb in Russian-speaking countries: trust in God but keep your powder dry, or praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Could you, Maharaj, please give your comment on that?
Well, Bhaktivinod Thakur would not put that in one of his songs. It's the opposite of devotion. Goptritle Baran. The devotee, read that song of Bhaktivinod Thakur, he's saying, and he gives example of different pastimes. So he's saying, I will stop trying to protect myself and accept you as my protector. That's a devotional position. Right? I will stop that, and I will depend on you exclusively to protect me. And he's saying, like in the case of Bakasura and Aghasura, Krishna, remember when they see the gaping jaws of Aghasura, someone's saying like, is this some sort of an amusement park? And someone else says, is it not a giant serpent with his mouth open about to devour us? And they have different opinions. They go, oh, but Krishna is here. And they dance on the way in. Right? Then he mentions the poisoned waters of the Jamuna from Kalia. And they're saying, these waters are full of poison, but I will drink that water knowing that Krishna will protect me. That said, we're not to be foolish. It doesn't mean that we go like, I'm going to close my eyes and walk across the street without looking. It's not about that. Right? It's about what's in the heart. Right? Many things that come from the Christian side of things, they don't reach the level of Mahaprabhu's teachings. Like this thing, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's not Mahaprabhu's teaching. Mahaprabhu's teaching is amanina manadena. Treat them respectfully even if they don't treat you respectfully. Right? That's not, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's transactional. Right? And that allows for abuse. Right? Mahaprabhu's teaching is taking it to another level because the devotees are not interested what is in this world. When one devotee was attacked many years ago, and anticipating future attacks, he armed himself. He bought some weapons. And this came to the knowledge of Guru Maharaj. And again, as Gurudev would say, Guru Maharaj is a Paramahansa Vaishnava. But I'm here to represent what he says. So he said, quote, Rake Krishna Mare Krishna Rake Ke. If Krishna wants to kill me, no one or nothing can protect me. And if Krishna wants to protect me, no one or nothing can harm me. It's up to Krishna. That's the default devotee position. He said, so I told him that with that in mind, then you take those weapons and give to those people. Because if Krishna wants me to be killed, then here's the gun by which you can do it. And if Krishna wants me to be protected, even if I give you the gun by which you could kill me, it won't happen. That's the angle of vision of a Paramahansa Vaishnava. We want to come under their influence. We may say, oh, we're not there, or we're not like, that's not practical, That's what we aspire to. But again, the same Guru Maharaj, Trinadapi Sunichena Tororapi Sahishnana, he said, to who? And under what circumstances? When some people came to, there was a rumor, because the ISKCON Mayapur temple, there's so many foreigners, and they thought so much wealth. So there was a rumor that the Radharani deity was solid gold. Of course, she is more than that. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Gaurangi. Gold is nothing compared to her. Or in Mahaprabhu, where we're told, gold is put in a painful position seeing her radiance and beauty. Anyway, so some people wanted to come and steal the deity. So some of the devotees, they may have shown some weapons at the time. And when one was being arrested, Guru Maharaj liked us, he asked that they put the handcuffs in front so he could chant japa. Gurudev and Guru Maharaj liked that. But anyway, so then the people came to Guru Maharaj and they said, they're not following Mahaprabhu's teachings, Trinadapi Suni Chena, etc. And Guru Maharaj said, no. He said, to who? He said, if someone comes, and these are his words, to molest the deity or Guru or Vaishnava, then we will become like fire. Not for ourselves, but for the deity, for Guru and Vaishnava. So many things have to be considered. But part of Sharanagati is giving yourself over to Krishna and depending upon him. Right? There's this reluctance on our part, or hesitation, and we could say especially in the lower stage, because we're thinking, well, I don't warrant that sort of protection because I'm not really surrendered. But that's not an argument in favor of remaining unsurrendered. And say, well, I doubt that Krishna will protect me because I'm not really surrendered. Well, Test him. We see Arjuna, he decided that he wanted Krishna and not all the mundane assets that from a rational point of view would have been preferable, right? But he didn't, at the same time, to give support to what they say, he didn't give up his bow and arrows. But he was a Kshatriya. That's his natural position. But it's critical to devotional culture to have this dependence. And we're Goptrite Bharan, Sharanga Sharanagati, and we're told this is the most important one. And if we think about it, so one side is infinite, the other side is finite. Who can best protect you? The finite side of the equation, or the even by a comparative analysis, do you want infinite protection or finite protection? What is Bhagavad-gita about? Arjuna assessing it according to his capacity. And he says many sensible things. And it's not that Arjuna is not saying sensible things or rational things. But what does Krishna say to him? And that was it? Asochastram, pragyavadang, vasase, gatasun, agatasun cha, nanu sochanti pandita. Na pandita means you're not talking like a pundit or a learned person. So this type of lamentation that you're expressing is not befitting someone like you. And in Bhaktivinod's poem, stand, heroic man, take a stance against the world of mortality, but not by trying to live here. I mentioned this the other day. People are so concerned about living here when what you should be concerned about is getting out of here. People say, no, we got to go on. And where? In the mortal world where you have to die. What part of this don't you understand? You cannot live here. Well, yeah, but I'm too young to die. What Bimalananda told Gurudev when the flight in Petersburg, the wheels wouldn't come down, and Gurudev turned to him and said, he told me, he said, prepare yourself to die. And Bimalananda, what was he, like 20 or 18 or something? He said, I'm too young to die. Yeah, I want to get married. Can I get married and then die? Oh, it's another kind of death. I'm speaking, you have to put a footnote or on the side of everything. But really, we're in the world of mortality. So how long do you think you can stay here? Right? So the maximum, it's supposed to be the minimum, simple living, high thinking. The minimum, simplify your life as much as possible and spend the maximum energy in Krishna culture. Because no one knows how long they'll be here. And it doesn't matter whether you're young. That death doesn't exempt the young. No one is exempt. And Guru Maharaj said, this is the courageous fight. And the way to deal with that, he said, you have to find where your identification is. And that's why we told, back to Bhagavad-gita, 2nd, 3rd chapter, Indriyani paranyahur, indriyebhya parammanaha, manasastu parabudhe, yo budhe paratastu saha. It's what Krishna is telling Arjuna. He's saying, the objective world and they can be seen, heard, tasted, the objects of the senses. He's saying superior to that are the working senses, right? And the eyes, ears, etc. Superior to that is the mind, the seat of sense experience. Superior to that is intelligence, the discriminating factor. Finer than that, not mentioned here, but ahankar, ego. Then there's the soul plane. So then he tells Arjuna, a few verses later, Evam buddha param buddhe samstabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho. Jahi shatrum mahabaho. Kama rupa durasadam. Before that was kama esha, kroda esha, rajaguno samudbaha, Videnam, Ihavarinam, Mahashano, Mahapapma. He's saying, so Arjun, what is your enemy? He didn't say, your enemy is, Duryodhana. He doesn't say that. That's another thing. Why doesn't he say that? He's saying, that's not your actual enemy. So this is to misunderstand. It's not this. He's saying, who's your enemy? Kama rupa, lust, desire. That's the enemy. That's what Krishna tells. He's telling you that in the middle of a battlefield. The external battle going, that's obvious. He's saying, that's not your real enemy. Your real enemy is in you. And no weapon other than, transcendental knowledge will help you against that enemy. So he says, he says, Jahi Shatrum. It's like he's giving Arjuna a pep talk. A spiritual pep talk. Jahi, Shatru means enemy. And he's saying, Jahi, conquer this enemy. And what did he say? Mahabaho. It's like, what's the word? No, but I'm saying, he's saying it's like tease. It's because he's saying, Mahabaho means mighty armed one. Which seems to contradict what I just said, but not. It's like he's teasing, like, oh, you're so big and so strong. That's not the fight. But he calls them Mahabaho. Jahi Shatru conquer this enemy. This isn't like fighting with, Bhishma Dev and Duryodhana and Dronacharya and all of that. This is the real fight. Right? It's not just battle of Kurukshetra. No, this is the fight of existence. Kama rupa durasadam. What did he say? Rajaguna samudvaha mahasano mahapapma vidyahina ihavarinam. But what was the first line? Kama esha, kroda esha. Calm yields to crowed, anger. And see how it connects to Mahaprabhu's teachings. Trinadapi sunichena tororapi sahishnuna. So Guru Maharaj would say, this whole world is a hoax. And particularly a scientific hoax. That's the biggest hoax. Humanism and scientism, right, is haunting everyone. Like Guru Maharaj would say, the ghost of Darwin is haunting us. When Srup Damodar Maharaj, who, Prabhupada used to call him scientist. Imagine that, your name is Srup Damodar and Prabhupada calls you scientist, because he liked to spar with him. But Srup Damodar Maharaj, he wanted he'd been scientist for so many years, he wanted everyone to know, I'm a devotee and I'm building a temple in Manipur. And he was a very sweet, beautiful devotee, gentle. And so he's telling Guru Maharaj, because after Prabhupada left, now he's building the temple and shifting more to those kind of things. And telling Guru Maharaj, I'm building a temple in Manipur. And he expects Guru Maharaj to go like, oh, that's wonderful. And of course, Guru Maharaj is appreciating that. But then he said, many can do that, temple construction. And they're like, what? And Guru Maharaj said, Swami Maharaj wanted you to build a temple over the tomb of Darwin. Not everyone can do that. He goes, that's what he wants from you. Build a temple over the tomb of Darwin. So we're haunted by objective evolution and humanism and this dichotomy, the two choices. I said there's competing narratives. One is freedom for the senses. Right? That's so-called Western civilization. And remember, when they asked Gandhi, what do you think about Western civilization? He said, I think it would be a good idea. So, freedom for the senses, that's Western civilization. Eastern civilization, freedom from the senses. We are all slaves of our senses. So this whole hoax about how free we are and we're more educated and free thinking than anyone before us. He's saying, yeah, I'll get to you in a minute. Hold on. Yeah, and we're just so free and okay, and have control of our own minds. Right? We're slaves already. We were slaves before, we're slaves still. That's the position in the world, to be a slave to the senses, right? What the Upanishads say, the ratinam vidhi, like the chariot. The jivas on the chariot, soul, atmanam ratinam vidhi shariram ratamevacha. And the senses are the 5 horses. Except they're not even going in one particular direction, they're going in different directions, and he's being dragged around. And at the same time, shouting that he's a free-thinking, a highly educated person. When some girl came from the University of San Francisco to talk to Guru Maharaj, and he goes, what are you studying there? And she said, philosophy. And Guru Maharaj said, oh, diving deep into ignorance. And he told this one person who was highly educated from Switzerland and everything, and could not give up his intellectualism. Jnane prayasamudapasanamateva. Guru Maharaj said to him one day, he said, are you ready to admit knowledge is poison? And there was like a pause, and Guru Maharaj went, not yet. So, why am I on this subject?
We're starting from the question.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I know what the question is, but most recently. Oh, about what the actual fight is.
Mm-hmm. Bhagavad-gita.
Right. Keep your ontological powder dry, your Siddhantic powder. In other words, when he says, Jahi Shatru Mahabaho, that's why I say it's a little, teasing, because he's the mighty Arjun, but this is not a fight with bows and arrows or powder dry, that type of weapon. He will later say, armed with the weapon of knowledge, dibya gyan. Right? What is that? Jnana dipena basata, but another like Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, trying to think. There's another verse where he's saying, basically he says, armed with the weapon of knowledge. Right? And so to realize the soul plane, and Guru is saying, when you're situated there, then this loses its hold upon you. And as we indicated earlier, because Krishna is called Hrishikesh and Govinda, because then you would think like, oh, so all this desire that it's like we're hardwired. Then it just has to be stopped, given up, suppressed, deprived, starved, and then you'll be free from that. And I guess that's supposed to be a happy position to be in, right? That's not Krishna consciousness. And you say, we're for those who are not satisfied with the word for little, but there's another word I'm thinking of for the pittance, but that's not even the word, of what's offered in terms of sense gratification. We're interested in something more than that. So it's not that we're sense deniers, but we're sense affirmative. But saying not that as spiritual subjects, we shouldn't be outer directed toward, in that sequence, objects of the senses, mind, etc. You see, sense objects are in the lowest position. So why should the chit subject, jiva, soul, jivatma, how can it find happiness in the acquiring, controlling, and consumption of things that are lower than it? So to reconfigure ourselves as dedicating units and then find that you can have the full spectral range of sensual possibility in dedicating and devoting yourself to that which is higher than you. That's the prospect. But at every moment, even there are secular writers who are saying, distraction is a life or death matter. That's the main thing, is we're being distracted. Right? That's what I mean, the little pantomime about the devices. And you'll see, there's a common joke, but based on reality. Two couples are on a date somewhere, and so there's two on each side of the table, and all four of them are looking at their phones. Right? And thinking they're free-thinking individuals, But it means and one of the American transcendentalists, so what did he say? It was I think it was Thoreau. He said, and this was in the 19th century, he said, things are in the saddle and ride man. You understand? Does that come through? You understand? Normally man puts a saddle and rides a horse. He said things are in the saddle riding man. That's what this is. We're being ridden. Right? So Guru Maharaj, to conclude, would say, cowardice is to run away from dealing with impending mortality. The noble and honorable thing to do is to address that. And when all of this vanishes, where will you live? If you in fact believe that the soul goes on, where will it live? Guru Maharaj is telling us, you can live in the world of your faith. That is the substantial thing. But if we're endlessly distracted by the objective world, then we will neglect the inner culture of faith So we have to be careful about that. Right? What you meditate on, you achieve. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajitante kalevaram. Right? Hare Krishna. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Echai Gochai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaha Hoite Vignanas Abhishta Puran. Echai Gochai Jar Mui Tarodas. Kansabara Padarenu Moda Panchagras. Kandera Charan Sevi Bhakta Sanevas. Jano me more ei abhilas. Echai Gochai Jabe Braje Koilovas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan. Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Narottamada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribhajaka Sathar Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandhara Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bimalabhadut Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sriman Paramananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Seva Brinda Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande.
Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
We are real pleasure seekers, absolute pleasure seekers. Hare Krishna.